Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone's been doing good. It's been a while since we've talked, but I am back yet again for my first video of 2025. And even though you haven't seen me in a while, I definitely have still been reading. So I have accumulated quite the stack here to go through. So I'll try and keep this a little concise because as you can see, I do have, if I got it all in there, I do have quite the stack of books. This wasn't even all of them that I read, just more so some of the better ones. Well, one of them in that stack I actually really disliked, but I want to talk about it just for that reason. Pretty well-known author too, so I want to get some input from some of the fans of this author out there of if I'm totally off here and should try and read some of his books. I'm already rambling, but let's get right into this because like you saw, it is quite the stack. A lot of really good books here. Let's go. Okay, I want to start with John Ajvide Lindqvist's most recent novel that was translated to English called The Kindness. And I was super pumped for this one because it's long and I absolutely love Lindqvist. So I was really excited to get a meaty novel out of him. This one here, even though he's a horror author and it probably falls into the category of horror, it's very loosely horror based. It's more so a masterclass of character development, I thought. You had this group of characters that, because of the length of this novel, he really took his time in terms of developing them and giving them depth with their past stories and everything like that. So I found that was really the best part of this novel. Even though I did love the horror or spooky element of the novel, to get into that a little bit, it was more so like this case here, like you can see, kind of shaped like a coffin, washes up on the shore of a Swedish town. And when they open it up, there's some pretty weird stuff going on the inside. Like they're not sure if it's human remains or something like that, but it ends up kind of affecting the overall nature of the people in this town. So they kind of start getting influenced by this foreign substance that starts to influence their behaviors, and that's why it's called The Kindness, because people start to do, normally good people with morals and such, we're doing some questionable things. So more so a sociological type novel here, exploring that kind of avenue. But yeah, I really did enjoy the novel. Like I said, it's more so the character development. It was one of those books where, because of the length of it, you got really attached to the characters. I found this was one where I was kind of sad when it was done because you did go so far with these characters and you miss them kind of after. So this is one that I definitely recommend. Obviously, like all of Lindqvist's novels, I really do love them. All right, sticking with the European content, the latest novel that was translated to English from Thomas Olde Heuvelt, our favorite Dutch author. Another one, just like Lindqvist, like I'll read anything this guy puts out. I think he's one of the better, more current horror authors. So Oracle, again, very spooky, eerie read. This one follows, it'll grab you right away. It follows a couple kids who are riding their bikes to school and they see this old ship, like this massive ship, just in the middle of a cornfield, basically, like a farm field. And obviously that's super weird. How did it get there? So they go to explore, and one of the kids ends up going down into the bowels of the ship through a hatch, and he basically never comes back. And as the authorities and everything like that start to explore this ship and this hatch and start to try and figure out what's going on here, whoever they send or whatever they send into this hatch doesn't come back. So that in itself should grab you and should make you want to read more. So really eerie novel, same type of thing. Has a kind of a body snatchers, invasion of the body snatchers feel to it. But yeah, really did love this. This guy hasn't written a novel yet that I haven't read, I haven't liked, and he does have one more. I think it's called November, coming soon. I mean, it's out in Dutch. We got to wait sometimes a couple years for these books to get translated to English, which is the only downside of these European authors. But I'm telling you, European horror authors are like the cream of the crop. They are some of the best ones around these days. So yes, check out Oracle. Okay, so here's the one that I alluded to already, saying I disliked it, and it is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. So, like I said, I had never read any Stephen Graham Jones, and I figured because of the title of this one and the content, I was going to check this one out. I'm a huge slasher movie fan. I've said that in the past, so I couldn't pass this one up. Now, the problem with this one was so this is my question to you, Stephen Graham Jones fans out there, is if you've read this one and you've read some of his other books, is his writing style always like this? Because I found it distracting, I guess. Everything was in the first person of our main character, who was the slasher, and I just found it, yeah, like I said, like it was kind of like you were just always in his head, and I had a hard time, connecting with the rest of the characters, I guess, in a sense. I read some reviews online, and people were saying this is kind of a retelling of I Was a Teenage Werewolf, just in slasher form instead of a werewolf, and how, he was battling with the evil that was inside him. But yeah, kind of a first-person account of the origin story of a slasher, I guess you could say. But yeah, I really did struggle with this one. I didn't really like it, but I would love to hear your feedback if you did like this novel, or if you didn't. But yeah, I don't know. Should I keep trying Stephen Graham Jones? At this point, I wouldn't be in a hurry to pick another one up. Okay, as we move on, the newest novel of, again, one of my favorite newer horror authors, Grady Hendrix, and this one is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I just finished this one, so this one's fresh. Loved it. Again, he did it again. Another great novel. The way he takes common horror tropes and spins them on their head and gives them just such a fresh take and a fresh outlook is just masterful, in my opinion. So this one follows, it's 1970, and this one follows a house for wayward girls where you would send your pregnant teenage daughter. It's in Florida, so it kind of centers around the southern, our main character is from Alabama and gets sent there. So it kind of centers around the southern states and girls from the southern states in 1970 who would get pregnant, to send them there so they could see their pregnancy through, have their baby. So I guess everyone in your community doesn't know it happened. So they want to brush it under the rug. So you go there, they'll tell an excuse to your family and friends of you went to some sort of summer camp or something like that. And then you come back, your baby goes for adoption, and it's like nothing ever happened and you live your life. I had no idea that this was even a thing. And there was some elements to this novel in the author's note where he did say he did a lot of research to actual wayward houses back in the early 70s and 80s where this was actually taking place. So that was kind of shocking to me in a sense. But yeah, so he takes that element and he mixes in witchcraft, where the girls here, who are obviously being mistreated at this home, resort to witchcraft and some witches that they meet in the woods in order to stick it to the man and kind of push back a little bit. But that also has its consequences. So really good read. I thought it was fast-paced, and it was kind of slow, but then once it got into it, it was pretty action-packed near the end. And one little disclaimer: if graphic childbirth makes you queasy or grosses you out, then I would pass on this one, because there were tons of scenes of girls giving birth, and it was definitely in detail, and yeah, it was very interesting to read in a novel. I hadn't really experienced that one before. Also interesting that was written by a male author, which in itself is interesting. But if you read the author's note, he did give a shout out to his wife, who gave him a lot of background on what the experience is like to actually give birth. So very interesting. It's unique in a sense. So yeah, recommend it. Next up, my first Ronald Malfi book, Small Town Horror, and let me tell you, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. I read this one, it's been a while, I read this one last summer when I was on vacation, and I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days, just sitting out on my back deck, enjoying the warm weather, and reading this book. Pretty much sums it up in the title, Small Town Horror, takes place in a small town. This one kind of has that element of It by Stephen King, hear me out, of just the sense of jumping back and forth to times when, a group of characters were kids, and then current time when they're adults and returning home to their hometown, and, things that have happened to them in the past kind of resurfacing and having to deal with them now as an adult. So some similarities there, really well done. Definitely a book with a lot of twists and turns. If you're into that kind of thing, this one will not disappoint. I highly, highly recommend this. I've been looking in recently to other Ronald Malfi books, and I definitely want to explore more from this author. This might be an author that I might run through his entire library, because I really did enjoy this. Okay, so now I got 2 left, and we're going to talk about an author. I've read one of his books. Technically, he collaborates with Stephen King on the Gwendy trilogy, so maybe more. But his solo efforts, Chasing the Boogeyman, was the first one that I read. The sequel, Becoming the Boogeyman by Richard Chizmar. You horror fans out there, if you have not read any Richard Chizmar books, please do yourself a favor and check them out. This guy is an unbelievable writer. Talk about a gripping writer. Like, literally not a boring page I've read from this guy. So this is the sequel to to Chasing the Boogeyman, and this follows now Richard. He puts himself, it's very, very meta puts himself in this story where, chasing the Boogeyman, he had helped to foil a serial killer in his hometown, and now, even though this serial killer is in prison, there is a copycat killer, we think, of taking place, and they're trying to figure out who it is and what exactly is going on, because it's super weird, because it's almost like the actual serial killer himself is doing these murders. And it's got that Silence of the Lambs type correlation going on here, because he visits the prison and talks to the Boogeyman himself, and he's almost not helping him, but like stringing him along and talking very cryptically to him, and it's a very intriguing novel. I highly recommend both of those novels if you like, kind of true crime-esque murder mysteries. Check it out. And also by Richard Chizmar, his most recent novel, Memorials. This one I read recently as well, just before I did the Hendrix novel, and again, so good. A bunch of college kids for a project start to go on a road trip, and they basically wanted to visit memorial sites that you see on the side of highways and the side of roads where car accidents were and fatalities happened. And they wanted to, video it, take pictures, and make a documentary on these memorials across, they were in like West Virginia is where they were doing this road trip. And things start getting weird and eerie, and it had that Blair Witch feel where you're reading it and they're making the documentary, and everything felt found footage type horror, and they're camping out at night and weird things are happening at night. They're waking up in the morning and someone's tampered with their car, and they don't really know if it's connected, and then they keep finding these symbols on the memorials, and even though they're in different towns and taking place far away from each other, these symbols seem to connect them all, and it's a mystery that they're trying to put together and unravel. And it's just so gripping, and I really recommend this. Check it out. It's really good. You got to check out Richard Chizmar. Like I said, he is doing some pretty good stuff right now. Okay, well, thanks for watching yet again. I know I'm not the best YouTube channel in terms of content, but hey, it's a casual hobby for me, and even if it's once in a while, I still do like getting on here and talking about books and talking to everybody. I would love your feedback. If you do like this stuff and you do like watching videos every 6 months, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.